Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Recharging Chat. It is February 15th, 2023. I am Sharon Kimberly Cravens. I'm here with Dr. LuAnn Moratto. And tonight we're going to go over our last installment of Parasites. Out of three, here we are. So we've covered a lot of ground, and tonight we have a real treat for you. So we're going to go over the last 10 minutes of the video that we showed you in the first two installments. And then we also have an incredible PDF document that was created by mothers of autistic children that beautifully shows largely the 7 different types of parasites that are in most human beings. So with that being said, we want to make sure that we're here just learning, we're taking it in, right? But we're not becoming experts. We're not going to hyper focus on what kinds, what types. It's just like, this is just a loose kind of, let's just take it in. Of course, get grossed out. That goes without saying, right? That's the caveat, is don't have any snacks, or probably don't want to eat right now. But this is just so you get a feel for what these things look like, how large they can get, different things like that. So that's the caveat. And that is a beautifully well done set of images. And if anybody would like to have that, I can certainly send it to you. Also, we were going to pull some pictures from the email that we have in case anybody has something and they want to share it and send it. You can send it to parapix@gmail.com. Anything else, Dr. Lu, you want to touch on before we get started?
No, that I think you covered it all.
All righty, sweet. She's fresh in on a flight from New York or New Haven?
Hartford.
Okay, cool. So she's coming in hot, just landed. So I think that, I want to just make a correction too, based on the last call. I had mistakenly spoken about being on a foundational protocol from Cellcore, and I'm on a comprehensive protocol. And most people are on the comprehensive protocol. And I just wanted to just put that out there, because if I make a mistake, I'd rather correct it now than kind of have it in my brain. And the main difference between those two is the foundational is longer and it's more intensive. No, you're shaking your head. No, the foundational. Oh, I'm sorry. See, I get it wrong. Okay.
Right.
The comprehensive is longer. It's more inclusive of everything. The foundational is shorter, right? Yes. Okay, thank you. Those words are too similar to me. So this is just my brain. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that first. So I'm going to share my screen and we can get this video started. And it's Dr. J, Dr. Todd Watts doing their thing. We're going to see them talking about Para-2 and what is in it and how it was created.
So the Para-2, I want to talk a little bit about some of the products and what some of the ingredients can do and help. So the Para-2 was formulated in a way that would be balanced for the 3 doshas. And this formulation, I worked with Dr. Rajesh Kotecha out of India. He is the Secretary of Ayush, kind of like our Surgeon General here in the United States. And then from there, we put our twist to it. So I figured out the balance of the herbs, how much we needed, and then we used our bioactive carbons, the carbon technology in it as well. So the great thing about it is it's super well tolerated by people, and the reason why is because it's balanced for the 3 doshas in Indian Ayurvedic medicine. And I'm going to go through each of the ingredients and what they're typically their benefits and what they do. So Vedanga is the ingredient that has the most in there, and it's effective against tapeworms and nematodes. It's also antifungal benefits and digestive support. So it helps to stimulate the bowels to move and reduces gas protection. It's also known as false black pepper. So it's a spice, it's hot, and it reduces hypothyroid symptoms and it helps in tissue healing properties. So it's not just antimicrobial, but it's also healing. The neem is known in India as the village pharmacy. It's toxic to parasites, to the nervous systems. It kills them and removes their toxins. So it has both it's antiparasitic to pinworms, roundworms, webworms, etc. It has antibacterial, antifungal, and supports proliferation of good bacteria. So it's very more on the bitter side. It also helps to disrupt the formation and structure of biofilm, reduces inflammatory chemicals like histamines, helps bile flow, and has antioxidant and anti-cancer properties. The clove is antiparasitic for roundworms and protozoans. It also kills the parasite eggs and is antifungal and for candida mold. It also inhibits biofilm formation, upregulates the body's production of antioxidants, and supports gut health. So it helps with the glutathione and superoxide dismutase. And then Cutaja, this one paralyzes parasitic worms 4 minutes and kills them in 10. So there's a research study that showed that, and I'm like, whoa, that's amazing. It stimulates bowel movements and alleviates constipation and diarrhea. So I love how it can help either or. That's because it does, one of the type of parasites it does affect is the protozoan-based parasites. So Entamoeba and some of the small microscopic parasites in the gut.
It's almost like adaptogenic for the bowels.
Mm-hmm.
If you're having constipation or diarrhea from parasites, it'll just help balance that out.
Exactly.
And Cutaja, another name for it is Hollerina.
Uh-huh.
Same thing, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
I guess I'm always on the raw material side, working with the people from India, so they call it Cutaja. It also protects the brain health and reduces free radicals, increases glutathione and superoxide dismutase levels, and it supports healing of hemorrhoidal tissues. So you see in all these products, they're both supportive as well as anti-pathogenic. Triphylla has 3 different fruits. They're antiparasitic, mostly protozoans and helminths. They support regular bowel movements and promote a healthy microbiome. And they also help with immune support, adaptogens, protects joints, prevents colon cancer, and regulates blood sugar. A lot of people in India just take this product all by itself. It's a very common herb. Okay, the para-3. So the para-3 was specifically, I worked with it for 2.5 years to help me with the strongyloides problems. And so not only does it work great for going after the lungs where the larvae can be, the eggs with the clove in it, but also it's great for the adult stage 2. And let's just go through some of the ingredients: thyme, sage, tansy, holy basil. It also has epizoate, not fetagoso, actually, black walnut, clove. It smells very strong towards very much smells like clove. So if you guys to open it up, that product is so strong. It's interesting because I've had people pass huge tapeworms, tons of liver flukes, parasites out their nose. I've seen people urinate parasites. I've seen people cough parasites up. I've seen people taking this product that have them coming out of their eyes. So it's great systemically, but also for the digestive system. It's been amazing push through. So people can be very sensitive to a little bit of it, but then you just go higher doses and then knocks it out. So if you go back and remember, parasites upregulate IgE, allergy reactions. So if you're doing just a little bit and working your way up, you may have some IgE flares. If that's the case, that's when I just take people and I'm like, all right, we're going to do 2 to 5 dropperfuls 4 or 5 times a day. And the next thing you know, they're passing stuff that's crazy. And then all their IgE reactions and their SIBO symptoms and a lot of their bloating issues all go away by high dosing this product. So it's a great high dosing product. And it's been amazing. People are like, this is my favorite product because of the fact that it gets such good results with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I believe, underappreciated for how effective it is, the para 3. But it's almost as if, do you believe that some people are having the IgE type reaction because just taking a few drops isn't strong enough to then kind of wipe them out? And then when you dose high enough and you get up over the hump, it's like, oh, my mast cell just disappeared, my mast cell activation syndrome.
I had a gal that was having severe heart palpitations, and so I just challenged her. I'm like, look, I think you have a tapeworm up in there under your ribs, and so she high dosed it, even though she was very sensitive to a little bit of it, and it just knocked it out. And she didn't have the chronic heart palpitations that she was having.
But I love the para 3, and I think just dosing higher on that seems to fix a lot of stuff.
It
And
does.
we talked earlier today about the 444, the kidney liver support or the KL support, which is tweaking the name, the lymphatic support, and the TUDCA plus or the advanced TUDCA, doing the 4 caps each of those 3 things, along with the para 3, taking about 5 dropperfuls, like you said, 2 to 5, push it a little bit for 5 days. It is amazing what comes out of people and how much just the reactions, the allergies start calming down.
So some final thoughts, you guys. Over 60% of the population has some kind of parasite. Most of my chronic patients have had parasites or have parasites, and it's like I've had them. Many of my colleagues have too. Understanding the epidemic nature is key to addressing the issues. So if you're going to be helping people with Lyme disease or mold toxicity or autism, neurological issues. I mean, across the board, you have to consider the parasite part of it and how it affects the immune system, and looking at what that is. And you're going to learn more about mold and how it affects the immune system in the talk with Dr. Jess, and I've been working with her on that. But it's at least understanding this part of it, meaning that you see the upregulation of IgE, interleukin 4, interleukin 5, interleukin 13, how it can create chronic issues with Th1 suppression. So then viruses come up, Lyme and co-infections come up, and other types of mycotoxins are harder to get rid of. Or if we have retroviruses in there, then it's kind of the opposite thing, where then your dominant Th1 and the Th2 is suppressed, and then we can't get over parasites, we can't activate the right immune cells, the eosinophils and the basophils, and it's really hard to eradicate and get rid of them. So if you're having a difficult time getting rid of the parasites, you need to consider something else may be there that you need to add in to the process. And we're working through on a couple of things with that to help you guys as well. So anything else to add to that, Dr. J?
If you think you don't have worms, you probably do. I mean, that's how we became friends. You started showing me pictures, and when I had a bowel movement and looked down, there were some things hanging out of me into the toilet bowl. I was like, oh, I've got worms. If I do, who else does? And I think you're better off assuming that somebody has worms or parasites than not.
Yeah, I agree. And here's, this was a really quick, just within 2 weeks of taking Pair 1, 2, and the biotoxin binder. She said ecstatic, expelled a 20-inch long, quarter-inch thick worm parasite just after 2 weeks of daily Pair 1, 2, and biotoxin binder. Instant energy relief after suffering for years with debilitating chronic fatigue. I'm in love with my life again, thanks to you dogs. So grateful. So you can see what that is. We get things like this all the time. And I worked with many people that have been treated for Lyme disease, done tons of IV therapies and tons of different types of protocols. And then when I addressed the Lyme, boom, they were able to get their lives back. So again, appreciate you guys being here with us, learning about parasites, the effect of those. And we're just grateful for being able to share this information and our research with you guys.
And those are the two heroes, Dr. Todd Watts, Dr. J. Davidson. Pretty good, right?
Yep. Pretty good.
Darn compelling.
So I just wanted to touch on what he said, because it comes up a lot of times for people that when they start going through some of these protocols, a lot of times they'll have different things happen, like herpes breakouts and different types of some kind of like, it feels like allergies are coming strong, or they're hitting on things and they start not feeling well. But again, just like he's was explaining there, and we hit on this the past 2 times as well, when you have the parasites in your system, the Th1 and Th2 response, those are 2 different ways that your immune system responds. And part of it is going to be responding to things like allergies. If allergies are expressing in your body, or if you know somebody who has allergies, really what they have is an immune system that's not functioning well. Their immune system is not responding to the overload of stress. And because parasites change the Th1 and Th2 response, that's going to cause the allergies to express. So when we start getting rid of parasites and the Th1 and 2 response starts changing, then we see the allergies start to drop. Or we see, like, we know that different things like mast cells and different types of herpes reactions, those can be in the body, dormant in the cells, but will express under stress. But when we're changing the body by removing a lot of these toxins, we might see some of those start to surface. And that's when we know we're hitting stuff in the system. And when we might want to go, okay, like he was saying, increase the para 3, go high, because it's almost like if you're hitting some parasites or you're hitting certain things, you're just starting to poke at it. And then when you start really dumping the stuff on it, then that's where the game changing starts.
Poke the bear, poke it.
Mhm.
Carla's asking, does TH things have to do with thyroid function also?
The Th1 response and the Th2 response, it sounds like T3 and T4, but it's different. Th1 is the immune, they're 2 different immune response. Will the thyroid be affected? Yes. As you go through and you clean up the system, the thyroid will be affected because it gets blocked. The receptor sites that are supposed to be taking up iodine, and when the systems are off balance, then the thyroid's not going to be able to function because it's full of toxins. And as we start to remove them and the immune system starts functioning and the all of the glands start functioning, then the hyper or hypothyroid or different types of things that nest in there can be released and be brought back to balance.
And if anybody else has any questions, you can pop them in the chat. So should we move on to the PDF?
I just did want to say one more thing, since we just had the full moon, and I spoke with a few people about this in person, but I wanted to mention it again here. So we do the full moon to interrupt the cycles of the parasites because they're constantly laying eggs, a lot of them. So we're constantly cleaning out. But as we go through the full moon and we go from the beginner to the intermediate to the advanced, we're doing these 7 days, hitting the 7-day. You can do a longer full moon protocol. And some people had mentioned, they're like, oh, I missed the full moon, or I forgot and I didn't start until the day of the full moon. Can I keep going after the full moon? Yes, you can. And some of us do long full moons. Some of us do 15-day full moons, and that is okay to do as well. You just want to keep flushing that stuff out. So just wanted to mention that because I had a few people question about timing with that.
Yeah, it's a good question because we can't always be where we need to be with the things that we need to have on the days, right? So
Yeah, or we forget.
yeah, legitimate. Yeah. But if this is something you layer into your life, like you said, to mitigate the effects of the larva and the stages of the life cycle of the parasite, this is just something you do every month, right? So it becomes theoretically a habit.
Yes.
All right, cool. Well, shall we?
Let's begin.
Where did you find this delicious document, LuAnn?
Oh, well, I have my ways of finding some good things.
You're going to be mysterious, huh? Okay. I guess the lovely people that created this,
They shared it.
yeah, they're here. Andreas Kalker, Carrie Rivera, and Jim Humble put it together. So it's parasite identification slides. This chart was created for the dedicated moms out there that are working hard to recover their children from autism. And we have one of those lovely women on our call this evening. She's done so much for her son. It's been really inspiring to watch. So there's 25 slides, and everything's been prepped, and it doesn't look like how it might look when it comes out of us. So it's really lovely that they've done that. We're going to start off with roundworm, the most common. So it's saying these live in the small intestine, reproduce quickly. A single female can lay up to 200,000 eggs in a day. It's very common and mostly affects children, seriously disrupting growth, development, and growth. And it says it's so infectious that the World Hoax Organization estimates that there are about, that's a big number, 700 million people affected. Is that right?
Yep.
Geez. Infected worldwide, of which around 60,000 cases mainly end in death per year, mainly children. And there is another photo of roundworm. That's one that came out in pieces, different coloring. And the phylum of it is it's a nematode. And we're not going to get into the details of how it can be acquired. We went over that in the second call. There's one that's been filtered, just another angle. It's saying that the roundworm is the most common human worm that infects more children than adults. They can grow over 12 inches in length. Adult males are smaller. And most people have no symptoms that are noticeable, but infection in children may cause slower growth and slower weight gain. If you are heavily infected, you may have abdominal pain. And intestines can become blocked if you have a heavy infection. Just touches on as well, saying that while some of the immature worms migrate through the lungs, you might have difficulty breathing, asthma, or have a cough.
So I just wanted to say something here about that with the blocked bowels. So a lot of times when people have constipation, a lot of times this could be what the problem is.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. I mean, take a look at this thing, right? If that's hanging out in, I know, if that's hanging out in your GI or your bowels or anywhere, never mind your lungs, you're going to have some trouble. And I like what this is saying. It's a big misconception that we actually eat worms to become infected. We actually ingest microscopic eggs, which then hatch in our bodies. So that is irrefutable when, we like to think we're so clean and we do all the right things. And it's like, well, how can you avoid microscopic eggs, right? Okay, here's another lovely view. This is touching on the fact that it's important to clean fruits and veggies and to never eat anything raw and straight out of the ground, however healthy it may seem.
So a good thing to do is to get an O3 bubbler, and you can put your veggies in, just soak them in the water and then put your O3 bubbler in there and that will help to reduce the, if there's anything on it, it will help reduce the toxins that are attached to that veggie.
By O3, you mean ozone, right?
Ozone, yeah, that's they make bubblers just for that.
Great. And you have one of those, right?
I do.
All right, I think we're moving on to tapeworms. Everybody's heard of that. We think of pork, right? Don't eat raw, undercooked pork, what have you. They're very different in consistency and size. There's basically 4 types of them. Says that they can affect the eyes and the brain. Once they're inside the body, the tapeworm egg hatches, penetrates through the intestine and travels through the bloodstream, may develop an infection in the muscles, brain, or eyes. And signs and symptoms of infection will depend on where in the body they're located. In the brain, there's headaches and seizures, lack of attention, confusion, balance difficulties, and swelling of the brain. Heavy infections can cause sudden death, so that is quite horrifying. And they can incubate in the body for up to 30 years before reproducing. That's a nightmare. So this thing can be
Yes.
inside the body for a long damn time. Yuck. Good times. And we have our friend, the fish tapeworm. So there's a difference between pork. There's fish tapeworms. There's also dog tapeworms. So fish tapeworms, it's the largest of the species. It can grow up to 33 feet inside the body. It causes anemia, water retention, and weight gain as it makes the host incredibly hungry. Dog tapeworms are passed along to us from our cats and our dogs, from just petting and grooming, never mind kissing or any of that. And that tapeworm itself can measure up to 35.6 feet long. And each segment is about the size of a grain of rice. So it's quite thin and small, but it's long, can be very long. The segments look like grains of rice, corn kernels, or peanuts, and they're hard. They have a slightly white or yellowish color. These segments are about 2 millimeters long and are what contains the tapeworm eggs. As the adult matures inside the intestines, these segments break off and pass in the stool. And I think we've had a couple of people that have noticed things that are similar to that. Lastly, we have beef tapeworms. Who knew? I haven't heard of that. They are 4 meters to 10 meters in length. So if we're in the United States, that's 12 feet to 30 feet. But can become very large, measuring over 36 feet long in some situations. The body is whitish in color. It is composed of 4 powerful suckers and can also have a lifespan of up to 25 years in a human intestine. People acquire the infective larvae from eating undercooked meat. The life cycle is indirect and complicated and is completed in humans as the definitive host and cattle as the intermediate host. And the adult worm inhabits the small intestines of us fortunate humans. Totally gross. So there's the, is that still a, yeah, it's the same. I can't read because the bar's on my,
Oh, yes, that's the tapeworm still.
okay, so that's the head with the 4 suckers. And that's like the head of the pinchers. So it's significantly large. So the highlighted part is saying that each segment contains an independent digestive system and reproductive tract. So these things are savvy. Tapeworm produces an average of 720,000 eggs per day. Bananas. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing any questions, or I'm not.
That's all right. I got the questions. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, about the colonoscopies, when people get colonoscopies. Yeah, I was wondering about that too. Or other surgeries, like, do these things run and hide? Are they afraid of like bright lights? Like what, how does this work? So they just scramble Okay. So, what does it say at the top?
Ropeworm.
Ropeworm, our friends, the ropeworm. The phylum is unknown. So these are 5th stage adult ropeworms. They're called such because they look like a twisted fiber of ropes. Their color depends on the food that we eat, and it can vary from white to black. The ropeworm parasite has just recently been discovered, and it has yet to be classified. Unlike other parasites, the ropeworm doesn't have intermediate stages outside of the body. It lives and dies within the human. These anaerobic parasites resemble human feces and dry out outside the human body in air. I can attest to this myself. Adult ropeworms reach over a meter in length, so 3 feet, exceeding a typical length of the fecal contents. I can vouch to that as well. Anybody else? She's saying they're also microscopic. All right, here we are. There's the head. It's that red arrow is pointing to. They twist like a corkscrew, increasing their cross section, blocking the lumen of the intestine. This is also how ropeworms squeeze the juice out of the fecal matter and feed on it by osmosis. They are most active at night between 1 and 6 a.m. Yes, and they hide in the biofilm. A lot of these things, when they come out, they're covered in biofilm, right?
Yes, and a lot of people have asked, oh, these look like my intestines are coming out. Are you sure these aren't, that my intestines aren't ripping apart and coming out? Because sometimes it's very painful and it really looks like that in the toilet. And so it's not your intestines, but they kind of look like it.
Yeah, for real. 5th stage adult, the head acts as a suction cup. They have 5 stages of growth. We're not going to get into that, but it kind of goes over like the characteristics of what they look like. And it's saying once they're washed with water from feces, they produce a very strong, distinct scent. I have not had the pleasure of doing that, but I can only imagine. They attach to the wall of the intestine using suction cups positioned at the head, and they move by jet propulsion, emitting gas bubbles. This process is manifested in humans by flatulence and stomach bloating during or after enemas. They participate in the digestion process by consuming fecal contents, stripping humans of vital nutrients, and generating toxins as their own waste in return. Thank you very much. They also produce toxic slime and fecal stones. Not our friends. There's the head of the ropeworm, and it's pointing out the bubbles. The 4th stage rope parasites look similar to 5th adult stage, but they have a softer, slimier body, as you can tell. And both 4th and 5th stage feed on blood. They can emit bubbles to form future attachment heads, and they also feed on human blood. So not only are they parasites, they're vampires. Good times. This is a 3rd stage branched jellyfish shape. And often the rope parasites are mistaken for the remains of other decayed parasites, such as Ascaris worms or the intestinal lining. Rope parasites release toxins in the intestinal tract and the bloodstream, suppressing immune system and causing multiple symptoms in humans. Once an adult parasite is attached to the intestinal wall, the human body does not have mechanisms to get rid of it. So we're rendered helpless here. The substance helps parasites attach to the lining of the intestines and protects them from the proteolytic enzymes that are present. So they're quite intelligent. And here we're working backwards. This is the 2nd stage, viscous mucus with bubbles, and that is slimy, viscous mucus. It emits bubbles, which are later used as attachment points to adhere to the intestinal wall. And the 1st stage is the the viscous mucus that can be hosted almost anywhere in the body. So here we have the toxic slime and fecal stones, which I have never heard of fecal stones. Have you, Dr. LuAnn?
Yes, fecal stones, tonsil stones. Yes.
Right. I didn't think about tonsil stones. Of course, I've heard of gallbladder stones, right? Kidney stones. So this toxic slime, it's an acrid substance and has a distinct smell. When this happens, this happens when they are irritated by spicy food, heat, or cold. It is quite possible that this slime protects the parasites from the human body's immunological response. This slime release is seasonal and can travel up the intestinal tract, reaching the lungs and the airways. Adult rope parasites also produce fecal stones. The stones have bright spots which resemble sesame seeds. At this point, it's not clear what the function of the fecal stones are, which could be reproductive or simply future food source storage. That is. Ugh. And we have a whipworm, which is a nematode as well. It can cause an infection in the cecum, appendix, colon, and rectum in humans. Its shape looks like a whip with wider handles at the posterior end. Infection occurs through ingestion of eggs, which are usually found in dry goods, such as beans, rice, and various grains. It is more common in warmer areas. They attach to the host through their slender anterior end and feed on tissue secretions instead of blood. The eggs hatch in the small intestine, and on reaching adulthood, the thinner end, the front of the worm, burrows into the large intestine, and the thicker end hangs into the lumen and mates with nearby worms. Totally gross. There's some more whipworms. So each female produces between 2,000 and 10,000 eggs per day and each adult can live for several years. When the eggs are passed out through the feces unseen, they are able to live for 3 weeks without a host. If you touch an object, public shopping cart, salt shaker, doorknob, etc., that has an egg on it, and put your finger in your mouth, you are infected. The life cycle from time of ingestion of eggs to development of mature worms takes roughly 3 months. The females can grow to 2 inches long, and the smaller males are slightly smaller in length.
So that's why we do the full moon protocol over and over, right? Because those eggs are just pop, 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 pop. We break those cycles.
Have to, because it's not just, oh, I'll avoid sushi. I'll avoid, raw meat. I mean, not that we're eating raw meat, but like this is on dry, it's rice, right? Grains. And so pinworms, nematode. They're also known as a threadworm in the UK or seat worm in the United States. Pinworms have an elongated shape. They are white and about 1/2 inch long. Humans are considered the only host of pinworms. It is common for children to become reinfected in schools through contact with others or through anal to hand to mouth contact, because by scratching the anal area, eggs can become lodged under the fingernails. They inhabit the large intestine of humans, and female pinworms leave eggs around the anus. Eggs are laid between the folds of the anus. Once deposited, the eggs are infectious for a period of up to 20 days. Once in the intestine, it takes between 5 and 8 weeks to develop into adult worms. So there's, wow, the inside of a 58-year-old male who has pinworms and egg sacs. That is extremely helpful to see that. The most important symptom is intense itching that occurs in the anal area, especially at night. In women, inflammation of the vulvar area is very common as well. A pinworm infection is, generally speaking, not very serious. However, this photo to me looks pretty damn serious. Transmission from person to person happens by handling clothing, bed sheets, towels, and environmental surfaces such as curtains, carpeting, contaminated with pinworm eggs, which are so light that they are able to become airborne. A small number of eggs can be integrated into air particles that, when inhaled, follow the same developmental process as ingested eggs. So not only just getting it orally, you can breathe it into your lungs. Good times. And we've all heard of hookworm. I remember my mom saying when I was a kid, don't walk around outside barefoot in the dirt, you're going to get a hookworm. And I was
Yeah.
always like, what's that? And there's its little creepy face. It's got it literally a hook. So they come from contaminated food and water. The eggs hatch in the intestines and then migrate to the lungs through the bloodstream, where they are coughed up and then they are swallowed. They then travel back to the small intestine to reproduce. In the lungs, they can cause pneumonia. In the intestines, they hook themselves into the walls, where each one drinks up to 1 cc of blood per day, causing bleeding and tissue death, not to mention anemia and weakness. Hookworms from dogs and cats can penetrate human skin and stay there, causing skin problems, rashes, edema. We get these from pets that are licking us or from us petting or grooming them. That is not good news. And there's a different view. The male hookworm is usually 5 to 9 millimeters long, and females about 1 centimeter long. Hookworms also cause asthma, eye pain, insomnia, and dry skin and hair. Once in the host gut, they tend to cause prolonged infection, and many die within a year or two of infecting, though some adult worms have been recorded to live for 15 years or more. I don't know how they get this information. They mate inside the host, females laying up to 30,000 eggs per day, and some 18 to 54 million eggs during their lifetime, which pass out in their feces. It is now widely accepted that children who suffer from chronic hookworm infection can suffer from growth retardation, as well as intellectual and cognitive impairments. Well, if this was, sucking up their little nutrients, I could imagine that that would be the case. And I think lastly, we have flukes. So these are liver flukes. I think in the middle there, it is a dime from the United States. In the top right image is like a 1p. I think it's British, UK. And the phylum of this is a word I can't even say. Platyhelminths. So it's a helminth, right? There are 4 types of flukes: liver flukes, lung flukes, blood flukes, and intestinal flukes. Liver flukes are a species that actually eat your liver and blood. This causes problems with fat metabolism and systemic inflammation. The longer they live in the liver, the darker in color they become, because the blood from the liver stains their skin. And this one's pretty dark, as is this one. So they're vampires. Lung flukes cause irritation and inflammation in the upper respiratory tract. Symptoms closely mimic that of a bacterial or viral infection, and they have asthma, ? There are blood flukes, schistosoma. They travel all over the human body and into the organs, including the brain and the spinal cord. They can cause seizures, and they destroy red blood cells. I would like to make sure these are nowhere near my body. These things are terrible. Intestinal flukes. A mature fluke might be as little as 2 centimeters long, but the body may grow to a length of 7.5 centimeters, and a width of 2.5 centimeters. It is a common parasite of humans and pigs. They generally inhabit the gut rather than the liver, and generally occupy the upper region of the small intestine. The flukes are the hardest parasites to get rid of, as they can stay in the human body for up to 10 to 20 years, with each adult fluke living for 1 year. Flukes come from consuming raw fish, undercooked water plants, such as watercress, and are also carried by dogs, cats, and other fish-eating animals. They also are found in beef, chicken, pork, and unwashed vegetables. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our frightening but informative slideshow. Any questions? Now you will always do your full moon protocol, right? You'll never forget to do it.
Anybody have a question about anything, that any of the slides, that was anything intriguing for anybody?
Laura's got a look on her face.
Now that I'm totally grossed out, truly, but I can be so appreciative of what we're doing with these protocols. Last week was my birthday, so I did a lot of celebrating, and I just have a story. You know, I have been not able to really handle alcohol for so many years, right? I thought I was allergic to alcohol. Very little of it makes me throw up all the time. And I went out the other night and we were dancing and drinking. And I was like, oh, I better, watch out because I'm going to get sick the next morning. I was the only person that did not get sick. My husband was throwing up. Our friends were all hungover the next day, and I was perfectly fine. And I asked LuAnn, I'm like, I can't explain this. And then also, I have always had irritable bowel syndrome and digestive disorders, and I've been sensitive to gluten and dairy and all these things. I realized that, I went to my parents' house the other day for dinner, which I can laugh about it. I always get sick after eating there, and I don't know what it's from. I was telling LuAnn, I don't know if it's, the environment or all the heavy creams or anything that my mom cooks with, or the cookware or anything. But I had like this 5-course meal and I didn't get sick. And this is truly like the first time in years that I've been able to do these things. And so my whole body is just so happy and able to process and drain and do all these things. So I'm really grateful.
That's amazing, Laura. That's fantastic. And happy belated birthday. And I know that about you because we talked about that when we were in Costa Rica, and I always was kind of like, wonder what's going on. But now it makes sense. And what phase are you in?
I'm in phase 4 now.
Nice. Excellent. Rock on. And you're doing a sound healing, aren't you? I'm just going to advertise that.
Yes, we're doing a sound bath on Saturday morning here at the recharging station in Bethel to foster in more self-love.
And don't we need that?
What
Fantastic.
what time is that at?
9:30 in the morning.
And is that open for anyone to come? And or is that do you have a certain amount of spots?
Yep, there's a certain amount of spots, but we still have a few left. So anybody's welcome. Let's see, they can email me or text me if they'd like to attend. And if you can't make it this Saturday, the 18th, we're going to be having another one in March for the full moon, around the full moon. Right, Sharon?
Yes. Put your number in the chat or your email.
Okay. Sounds
Awesome.
good. Thank
So
you.
good. Yeah, thank you for sharing. It's so compelling to hear people's just experiences, it's just life-changing, truly. So if anybody else has anything, you want to share or question? I think we're getting close to time to wrap it up. Next call is March 1st, I believe?
Yes,
Yeah.
March 1st.
Wait, are we ready for that in March? That's just, how did that happen? All right, very good. Well, anything else, Dr. Lou?
I have a book that if anyone wants to investigate a little bit more into parasites, and there is a book that's quite interesting. It's called This Is Your Brain on Parasites: How Tiny Creatures Manipulate Our Behavior and Shape Society. And that is by Kathleen McAuliffe, McAuliffe. And it's a very good book. It's got some very interesting things in it. And if you want to learn a little bit more about the lifestyle of these little creatures, because it's a whole new world out, a whole world of there's so many of them. There's thousands of different types, and the way their life cycles are and how they are transferred is very interesting. And then all the different things they do in our body, this book covers a few of them, from how it can change the dopamine and serotonin in our gut and affect our brain. And they talk about in there how possibly a link to schizophrenia from parasite infections, and very interesting. So it's a nice book to start reading if you want to learn more.
I just popped that in the chat. You said Our Brain on Parasites by Catherine McAuliffe, right?
This Is Your Brain on Parasites.
This is not drugs, parasites. This is your brain on parasites. Okay, there we go. Fantastic. Because just those comments about breathing in, from linens or touching a doorknob. You hear this information and you could lose your mind. You could become the germaphobe. You could become, just hang out in that fear space of being so grossed out and not wanting to touch another human, go out in public, do anything ever again. Or no, you have a solution. We have Cellcore, which is this God-given incredible gift to help us deal with and flesh out these invaders. And it's so incredible that we have this, and then it's been brought to our attention, and that we're investing in it and we're doing it. So rock on, people.
I wanted to add one thing we were talking about the biofilm before when we were showing the pictures, and how they were saying it is hard to get rid of the biofilm. And while we're going through the protocols, we see a lot of the biofilm coming out, but when there's a lot, it can build up in there and create issues for us with all the different the gas and the bloating and all. But CT-Zyme is it's an excellent product to help bust that biofilm when you take it away from food. When you take the CT-Zyme with food, that's gonna one will act as a proteolytic enzyme, the other way will be a digestive enzyme. But when you take it away from food, it'll go in there and help bust the biofilm up. And of course, Para One and the CT minerals also work on the biofilm, which everybody's taking. But if you need that extra kick, adding the CT-Zyme is very helpful.
Great. All right. Very good. Well, if you guys want to unmute and say goodbye, we'll see you on the next call.
Let me stop the recording.
Oh yeah, I never do that.